Hey guys, so I decided to come back here and give like my official review of what happened fight night. And I said it in my last post fight thoughts video, but I'll say it again. It was a competitive fight. Some people, it's just disgusting how these people just disrespect Dan Garcia. Some people are even going as far as to say Keith Thurman was robbed because he didn't get a unanimous decision. Shut the fuck up. Okay, look, listen, me being the fan of Garcia's that I am, I will be the first to admit that Thurman won. Not the first to admit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be the first to admit because I saw the fight the same way that one judge did too. I thought it was 7-5, but I will admit that I can see why Thurman won. It's not a robbery when you're winning close decisions. It's not. And for those people that don't understand why some people would have seen it as a close decision, I'm gonna break this fight down to you the way I saw it last night. Okay, now some of you are gonna disagree, but it's whatever. It's all subjective. But I'm also going to tell you something I'm going to do in the future moving forward at the end of this breakdown. But let me start again because so the first round, all right, it started off. They were feeling each other. No, actually they weren't. Keith Thurman came out, and he was aggressive as hell. He was shooting that jab, shooting that left hook, that jab again. He looked really good, but the second minute of it, Dan Garcia's, he started showing, he started to show his own, and he was starting to counter, and Dan Garcia, like the way that Dan Garcia was handling that assault from Keith Thurman was very impressive to me. And of course, at the end of that round, Keith Thurman he started letting heavy shit that made Dan Garcia back up, but I was impressed at how Dan Garcia responded to Keith Thurman in that first round because Keith Thurman came aggressive. And people understand that, narratives leading up to a fight also matters, okay? Understand that. I have no problem with Keith Thurman deciding to be, an official boxer when it's necessary. I actually think that's good. Win the fight. Winning the fight is more important than getting the knockout, in my opinion. It'll always be more important. However, when I've seen someone else mention this, but the thing about Keith Thurman is that he calls himself one time, Mr. Chaos for life. All right. So when you are that guy, and you are having fights like this, don't get mad at some people. Some people, this little 140 pounder that came up to welterweight, Dan Garcia, it looks like he's getting the better of you when you start moving around. Okay, and it looks like Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but again, like Danny Garcia handled those punches, those big punches from Keith Thurman, better than most people did, in my opinion. Debatable between Dan Garcia and Sean Porter, but he handled, especially for a guy that was just previously a junior welterweight, he handled those punches well. And I definitely do think that also went into the mind of some of those judges. It definitely went into the mind of those people in the crowd when they're watching the fight. Like, why is Keith Thurman moving so much? So, but anyway, let me get back to the breakdown, okay? So the first round I gave to Keith Thurman. He came out as the aggressor, and it was a great game plan. He at first it seemed a little even, but Keith Thurman took it towards the last minute of that round. Second round, I gave to Dan Garcia. Dan Garcia seemed more in control, but this second round highlights the second round of this fight really highlights something that that I feel it highlights the confusion that people have when people say that, oh, I thought Dan Garcia won. Okay, a lot of the rounds that I gave to Danny Garcia, it would start off with him being in control for like the majority of the round, right? In my opinion. But then in the last minute of the round, or not even the last minute, but in moments, Keith Thurman, what he would do, he would come out with these, with heavy shit, like, that shit that'll make, that'll hit you right in the soul. Like, he'd come out and start, blasting Dan Garcia, guns blazing, like, and that's what, like, I was thinking that, as soon as I saw that second round, I was thinking that might happen throughout the fight. But, the second round I gave to Dan Garcia. But, yeah, again, like, Keith Thurman, he in the last minute of that round, he had this nice combo. He hit Dan Garcia hard. And so, but yeah, that's why I thought I still gave that second round to Dan Garcia because for the majority of that round, I thought that Dan Garcia was in control. Now, the third round, I gave back to Keith Thurman. When Keith Thurman is winning, and that was like the key to victory here. When Keith Thurman wins rounds, he wins them big. All right, admittedly, like he like there's no conversations like, yep, that's a Keith Thurman round. Whereas when Dan Garcia wins rounds, like in the fourth round, in the next round, Keith Thurman he doesn't make it an easy fight, an easy round to score. All right, he'll fight you in that round. He'll fight you hard, and so that's why like I can accept the Dan Garcia loss because I can see why I think moving forward when it comes to when I score my fights, when I'm scoring fights that I really feel like need to be scored, I'm going to become less reluctant to score a round even. I think that we should all get into that practice as boxing fans because if you can make an argument for both fighters as to why if you can make a legitimate argument for both fighters as to why both of them won that round, I don't think you should try to take your biases aside and score even. And I do believe that if I scored the fight in that manner, I probably would have had Keith Thurman winning too if I gave some of those things some of those rounds evens instead of a Garcia round. But the fourth round I gave to Garcia. Again, Keith Thurman made it hard to in those little moments he would land some heavy shit. So, but I gave that round to Garcia. The fifth round to Thurman, and then I gave the sixth round to Garcia again. And then the seventh round, I also gave to Garcia. I thought that Garcia was, in the second round of the second half of the fight, Garcia kind of broke the mold of them trading rounds. It's like when Keith Thurman, I wish I wish Dan Garcia had Keith Thurman's mentality. Those rounds where Keith Thurman was winning instead of just taking off, make those rounds hard to score. Make it dirty. Do some shit at the end of it. What I also didn't like about, let's go back to the fourth and sixth round. What I also didn't like about those rounds, this is what Keith Thurman would do when he knew he was winning the round. He would start boxing. He'd start moving his legs a little more. But I think it was either the fourth or the sixth round. Danny Garcia would clearly be winning the round, right? It would be like 2 minutes in my opinion, he'd be winning the round, right? But then he continued to engage Keith Thurman, giving him more opportunities to land some of that shit when it was not necessary. What Dan Garcia should have done was adapt Keith Thurman's plan. Like, he'd hear the fucking 10-second warning and he'd still be engaging Keith Thurman. It's like, no, it's like, dude, stop. Like, I remember screaming at the TV, like, dude, just back away. You don't need to engage him anymore. You have this round is yours. But Dan Garcia will continue to move forward, continue to press the action. And I feel like, he should learn from that. Like, Keith Thurman, on the other hand, when he clearly won the round, he would not give Dan Garcia that opportunity to score to land anything. He'd start boxing, he'd move around, like, he'd be smart about it. And I think that Dan Garcia was not really intelligent in that sense. So that's my also further explanation to the fourth and sixth rounds. So, but moving to the seventh round, I gave that seventh round to Dan Garcia. I think the 8th and the 9th round to Keith Thurman, and then the 10th round to Dan Garcia. And then I had it a draw for both of these fighters going into championship rounds, right? And then so I thought this fight could have been anyone's for the taking, right? But in the 11th and 12th round, Keith Thurman just decided to give those rounds away. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was screaming, get him, Dan Garcia. Just all you gotta do is keep on pressing that action. I thought that Dan Garcia did enough in those rounds to win the 11th and 12th round. So I had the score. My score was 7-5. 7 rounds to Danny, 5 rounds to Keith Thurman, and that's why I was a little disappointed in hearing those scorecards because I had the same scorecards as that one judge who scored it for Danny. I thought that, but again, what I will try to get into a practice of moving forward in the future is I will try to be less reluctant to score a round even. That's what we should all be doing as boxing fans. Because if you can make a legitimate argument that either fighter won a round, I think it's fair to both. You gotta take your biases aside. Don't try to squeeze it like, I love Danny, so I'm gonna give this round to Danny. I love Thurman, so I'm gonna give this round to Thurman. No, like you just score even. And I think that if I did that watching this fight, I definitely would have had. I most likely would have had Thurman winning as well. So, this is my post fight breakdown of Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia. It was a good fight, okay? For those of you that, are saying, oh, this was a fucking, Keith Thurman was robbed. This fight shouldn't have happened this way. Like, it's like, shut the fuck up, man. It was a competitive fight from start to finish. Like, again, the rounds that Keith Thurman won, he won them big, and that really paid dividends. The rounds that Danny Garcia won, Keith Thurman, at least in the earlier rounds, Keith Thurman would do a very good job of making those rounds hard to score for Danny Garcia, because he even if like in the last minute he'll still be fighting. He'll come out with this heavy shit that'll make the crowd go ooh, shit like that. So Keith Thurman did a good job. In fact, he came out there with a very brilliant game plan. Very brilliant. It was pretty much the Lamont Peterson plan, but in reverse. Instead of waiting until the end to start taking this fight serious, he came out earlier and started, showing Danny Garcia his power, try to make him regret coming to a welterweight division. But I thought that Danny Garcia, he weathered that storm very well. And again, Danny Garcia has nothing to be ashamed of. He put on a great fight. He is not a fucking bum. What happened on March 4th was that Keith Thurman beat a great fighter. This win on his resume will continue to go on as one of the best wins on Keith Thurman's resume. I think, no, it is the best win on Keith Thurman. It's a better win than Sean Porter. I don't give a fuck. Like, I love Sean Porter. He's also a good guy. But come on now. Danny Garcia going into this fight was undefeated and a champion, a fighting champion at that. This will be the best win on Keith Thurman's resume for sure. Congratulations to Keith Thurman. And I hope, let's see, I think I'll make another video talking about what I'd like to see from Keith Thurman next. But that's all for these post-fight thoughts, my post-fight breakdown. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you like this shit, subscribe. If you don't, whatever. Casual fan, not an expert, but you don't have to be an expert to give your opinion on something, so take it easy.